Welcome to Board Game Binge, the place where we bring you bite-sized, bingeable board game content from across the industry. I'm your host, James Staley, and in this episode, we're chatting with Kimberly Tolson, a professor, a writer, and the content creator behind the popular YouTube channel, Tabletop Tolson. Kimberly, welcome to the binge. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you for having me.
It is great to have you. I always love having content creators on our show. It just brings me joy. And not only does it bring me joy, but I feel thankful, quite frankly, every time I have a content creator on the show, because it's people like you that really help generate the excitement in the industry, educate in the industry, get people excited about board games, bring more people in. And quite frankly, that's just what helps make this industry bigger and bigger and bigger. So I'll start off by saying thank you for that. I think it's pretty awesome.
Oh, well, I appreciate it. I absolutely will second you that since I've joined more actively than just as a gamer, I have found just wonderful connections and just inviting, lovely, engaging people from all spectrums. So I heartily cheer you on.
Yeah, this industry is absolutely the best. I echo that. People are just so nice. And I've yet to interact with literally anybody in the industry that isn't somebody that you would just have a beer with, at the local pub or whatever. Like, everyone is just super cool. And even people who would typically be competitors in other industries get along great and try to help each other out and encourage each other on, back each other's games. It's just something that's super awesome to see. So for people that don't know you, let's start off the fact that you're an educator in English and Humanities at Lewis Clark State College. Mm-hmm. What is that? What does that do? What's English and Humanities?
So my main classes, or my major coursework that I teach, includes composition. And so I teach a lot of basic writing, remedial writing, research writing. In the past, I've taught some what people will call technical writing or business writing for just business communication. And then the humanities aspect of it includes some of my favorite classes are art and history of the motion picture. So I love movies. I love
that
TV.
Is cool.
I'm a huge pop culture fan.
Yeah.
So for me, that visual medium and the I guess the sharing of the history of that is just wonderful. I think it's great. So I'm avid with movie watching and TV watching. And then I also teach literature, more modern literature. And I just have a really robust academic life that I love. And I just recently accepted a full-time position at Lewis Clark State College, and so I'm just really excited to be there full-time and just kind of continue my teaching career. I guess it's been just shy of 15 years I've been teaching.
Wow. So these different topics you're teaching, so are they literally are different courses, are they kind of tied in together, or how does that work?
They're all different courses. And so what I do is I teach 4 classes a semester for fall and spring. I just, I don't know, campus is 7 blocks away. I kind of live near, we're in a really nice small community. I think I wrote in my bio at the, confluence of the Snake and Clearwater Rivers, which I've never lived this far north or this far west before. And I love it up here. I love the inland Pacific Northwest.
Oh, it sounds beautiful.
Lovely. Yeah.
How did you get into this? Like, what was your background before you started teaching? Like, is this something that you took in school? Were you in another industry and you then did kind of transition to teaching, or how did that work?
I was a very late English bloomer, like in high school. And I love to connect with my students this way because I did not like English. I read a lot, but I could not write. I was not creative. I grew up, and I still have this black-white. I have this, it's really concrete sometimes. I've been working on it. I think games really help with that. I'll probably bring that up later. Games have gotten me out of my shell and really, pushed my boundaries of what I feel comfortable with. And I've just grown so many, or I guess worked on so many of my learning intelligences and styles and strategies with board games. But I just an English major, switched over from architecture. So my
Oh,
whole life
wow.
I was STEM. I was in, math and science, and I went to college, and I was like, oh boy, this is tough. And I also realized I wasn't doing things I loved, and
Yeah.
my mom would be so happy to hear me say part of what I loved so much was theater and performing. And I wasn't getting to do plays and sing and do all the things that just like made my heart happy. So I switched over to English halfway through my college undergrad, and then I decided I wanted to go to grad school. And English, you just go to grad school and you're like, yeah.
Why not?
And how do I pay for grad school? Become a teaching assistant.
Uh,
So I became a TA, and I started teaching college at age 23,
and then never look
which
back.
was, yeah, yeah, it was I mean, I had someone from my high school in my lit class that I was teaching. He was just 3 years younger than me. And I went, this is so weird. But I did. I took to teaching very quickly. I appreciated it, loved it. It helped pay for my grad school. And then after graduating, we moved out here to Lewiston, and I kept teaching. So it's been a wonderful career that I stumbled upon later. And even my own field of expertise, I stumbled upon much later in life than most people would. So,
It always amazes me when you hear these stories. I mean, I started off in physics when I went to school, and then end up, found that I wasn't passionate about it once I got there. And after a year and a half, thought, you know what, I'm gonna get into business. I seem to like that more. You're interacting with people more often. You're not stuck in a lab down in a basement somewhere. So often you have to almost start the journey before you realize where it's going, right? And
oh, definitely.
it's cool though when you talk to people that have kind of discovered that journey along the way. The sad part is when you have people that don't discover that journey, so they stay on that path, and it may not be where their passion or their love is, but they stick with it because they think that that's what they're supposed to do versus what they want to do. So it's cool to kind of hear from someone that's actually got there. So now with the passion around like theater and things like that, were you doing community theater like on the side or anything like that, or?
It's kind of spotty. I've never, I do, started with just, middle school and high school, really
Yeah.
wanting to be in performing arts. And so theater, I was in the show choir. It's where I learned how to dance. That was a really scary time. I could not dance, but then I got better. So I did show choir and then just regular choir. And in college, I really started doing all of these one act plays and small
Mm.
projects because our campus was so big that the entire theater department had a senior project, and all the seniors in the theater division, which I was not a part of, essentially got to direct their own plays. And then they just had all these students who would just audition, and their plays would have like 3 or 4 people in it, and they would just be essentially one act. And I did tons of those in college. Like
No, it's
every
fun.
semester I was doing these, one act shows that in the round with like, close audience.
Yeah,
And I mean, that's where you really,
that's
find
scary.
out if you could do it. Yeah, exactly. There's like, no distance
There's
between
no
you and
hiding.
there. No hiding whatsoever. And then when I moved up here, I just jumped right into the community theater. And I've done, I don't know, however many, like 1 or 2 a year since I've been here. I really love non-musical comedies. That's
Okay.
my expertise. If I have an
Wow.
expertise, I really do just love speaking. But then if I'm in a musical, I'm a background person.
Yeah.
I don't do the lead roles. But yes,
And you're doing
I
two of these
will
a
love it.
year?
Well, I mean, pre pandemic.
Oh, pre-pandemic. Yeah, pre-pandemic, but
Yeah.
still
So
like recently though. It's not like,
yeah,
yeah, wow.
they're 3 to 4 month things. And yeah, the last show I did was a really wonderful. It's a comedy. It's Night of the Living Dead, and it's brilliant. It's so funny. It's just so smart. And I know it sounds like it is. There's zombies, and it's based on the movie, but things change. And the part that I got to play included 2 people, and so I would come on and off stage as the other person, and almost every performance night, someone would be well into act 2 before they realized those 2 people were me
That's
because
cool.
of my wigs and because of my
Yeah.
performance. And I'm like, that's great. That's all I want to know, is that you thought there were really 2 actresses and not just me. So I love the performance. I love the wigs and the characters.
and certainly see some of this in your channel too. And that's why I was asking about the theater, because when you see, various content, in this industry anyways, a lot of it is very serious, talking about games, maybe people who are very dynamic in their explanations and so forth. But you've taken it a step further, right? So you actually have like little mini like sketches, right, in some of your videos, and you're using props, and in some of them you got a green screen, so you might have like some other environment behind you, or you'll duplicate yourself. Like there's a number of them. I think is a character named Barb is in one of them with the red hair.
Yes, Barb is my favorite.
Yeah. So you'll have like for people that haven't seen the channel yet, Kimberly will be doing like there'll be like a little sketch, but she's playing all the characters in the sketch, has the camera switching angles and stuff like that, which I find pretty cool. But certainly it's not something I think that most people are probably comfortable with coming in. Like anybody can, I think, do explainer videos, or, do like what I'm doing right now, or we're just, talking and interviewing people. That's something I think just with repetition that you get better at with time. But acting as a character is something I think is a completely different skill set. And that's something that takes some time to really hone. So, I mean, when we were just off air before coming on here, I said, have you done some theater in the back? Because there's got to be some theater in there. I got to believe it. So you create this YouTube channel. How did that come about? So this has been, your first episode was April 2020, April 10th, 2020. So just over a year, 3 months. How did this all start?
Well, this started as a way, first off, a way for me to stay in touch with my friends in my community that I built up over the last however many years. I say 15 years was when I started teaching, but that's also when I really got into the board game industry. It was, Lewis and I were both, my husband and I now, we were both in grad school in Stillwater, Oklahoma, and he got this games magazine. And I was looking in the back and in the classified kind of area where they make announcements. And I saw this thing and it said, game convention down in Dallas. Now that was only 4 hours from Stillwater. And I went, maybe we should go to this convention. And he was like, what? You want to drive? You want to go somewhere? You want to leave the house? And I was like, yeah, let's go to this thing. And because he'd introduced games to me. I think our first game was, now I can't even think of it.
Like a Catan or one of these? Or
no, it's the 2-player where you, Lost Cities. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I almost forgot that. That was the very first game he ever played with me. And so I got into games immediately because he introduced those kinds of Euro-style games to me. And so it wound up being Board Game Geek Convention. It was their very first public convention, which was their third year they put it out. So here we are going to this game convention, and I fell in love. I fell in love with the people. I fell in love with the industry. And over the years, I've had various jobs, demoing for CMON, or demoing for Asmodee. I worked for Queen Games for a year. And that was just a really cool, wonderful experience while I was in transition between, my degree and teaching full time. And so I just love games, and my students know that. And so I wanted to connect with people. We had just had the pandemic hit, and I felt like we were really in for a long wait and a long distance. And so that was just a big priority to me. But I also, unfortunately, was laid off from my tenure job. And I thought, this is my job, And so my students said, we're so worried for you. We love you so much. We want you to do things. We want you to share your love of things. And then I had a student who said, hey, Ms. Tolson, you should make a channel. You should do YouTube. And I was like, YouTube? Me? What are you talking about? This is ridiculous. It sounded crazy talk to me. And he said, no, you would be great. And you could share all the games, and you would just be great. Just do it. And I thought about it. And then I went, maybe I can do this. And then I really just felt like, if I'm doing this, I want to do things that I love. And so I think you picked up on those aspects of my channel that incorporate just what I want to do, which is have fun and share the fun of games. So when I have these characters, these are the characters that I've seen and met throughout the years. I mean, all of them are inspired by some aspect of not only myself, but also the gamers and the friends that I go to these conventions to see and to play with and
Okay.
to just catch up with, you know?
Does anybody recognize themselves? You get a message, someone's like, hey, like a Barb calls you and says, wait a second.
Well, Barb is my husband, actually.
Okay.
He knows that. He's always the rule instructor, and he learns the
Yeah.
game and he teaches it, and he's wonderful at it. So he's Barb, and I love Barb. Barb is probably my favorite, but my second favorite is Mark.
Okay.
And I like Mark. Mark was the very first character I put in my my tutorial, and he did pyramid poker with Barb. So if you want to watch pyramid poker, Mark has been in several of them. I find that people find him challenging. He's got a really high level of energy, and he has a high attention to detail, and he takes things maybe a little bit too personally, and I just love that. I love how, like, just out there he just bears his his soul to the game and just goes in, 100%. And so Mark is my second favorite character.
So some of the
They're
things,
all me, but
yeah, I know. Well, yeah, there are. Some of the times I had to do a double take on a couple of them. I'm like, oh, wait a second, that's Kimberly. So, what are some of the content you cover off? So I know that like there's explainer videos. I've seen a couple. I don't want to call them box opening because you're not necessarily like slicing the Amazon box open, but you're opening up like an actual game and you're explaining the components and so forth. And so we'll call that box openings. Reviews, top fives, top tens. What are some of the other things that you cover off for people that maybe want to check out your channel?
Yeah, I have one series that's called 3 Things I Like About, and generally at the end I add one thing that you might not like. And so depending on what your play style is, depending on what your player group is, you might find that one thing that may not fit is really helpful, because I think I try to stay positive in my videos. I really think it's important to just generally share what I love, and right now I can do that. So when I'm selective, and so when I share things that I love, it's not because I love everything, it's because I love this thing and I really want to share it with you. So 3 Things I Like About helps me focus my review, so I can actually tell people specifically, it's got to be, this thing is amazing, that mechanic is awesome, these components or whatever. So 3 Things I Like About, and I also do a this or that, where I compare 2 games and they're similar in some way. Sometimes it's the same designer, and ultimately it's my way of presenting both games and then letting the viewer decide, well, which one do they like more, which one sounds more interesting, which one is like their lane. Because I might really like one of those games, and generally I do like one over the other, but I try not to reveal that in the video, because I do want to leave it up to other people.
And then you also have some videos that are how to play in 5 minutes, right? 5 minutes or less.
Yeah, I just started that mostly because I want to help instructors a little bit more with the kinds of games that I bring into my classroom. And the reason I can do these tutorials in 5 minutes, even with my tips or suggestions or takeaways, like I call them, usually they're related to some sort of learning objective. But I have these because they're important to me. I want to use them in my class, and they're short. And so the games I incorporate can be played in a 50-minute class period, or in my case, I usually have 1 hour and 15-minute classes. So it means I can develop a little bit more, spend more time. But I use these games in my class, and I want other instructors to do the same and be able to access that material and give their students something to watch to prepare for ahead of time. But it's also just great because you can play these games with your friends. I mean, you don't have to teach them or anything.
Yeah, well, good for people that are wanting to play the game themselves, right? That maybe haven't played it so they can learn it. But even to help people who are having guests come over, right? Or people coming to game night and they're bringing this game and they need to explain it. These are great videos even for people like that, right? Because everybody's in that situation. If you're in the gaming industry, 100% you are explaining how to play a game to someone at some point, right?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
And that is it's a little bit of a skill, because I've had people explain games to me before where they're going for 15 minutes and I still have no idea what the game is about, right? So if you can get it kind of really contained and tight where the person who maybe has not the attention span to sit through a 50-minute explanation can get the core concepts, I think that's key as well. So you've been backing a lot of Kickstarter. How many games did you own prior to starting your channel versus now?
We don't keep track of the number of games that we have, and we have a really hard time even finding them sometimes, which is really hard, and it's embarrassing to some degree. Just recently I was looking for a legacy game, and we even keep the legacy games that we play through and eat up, even though they're done, and I couldn't find one of them, and I was really upset. So we don't really know exactly how many. I think there's somewhere between 1,500 and 2,000, but that's like a range. I'm
That's
not
a
sure.
lot of games. And
we have
and it was a lot of that acquired before you started the channel, or did you?
Yeah.
But did it accelerate since you started this channel? Would you say?
Probably because we haven't been able to sell any or share or donate or make that exchange even. So we're not actually staying at a stasis. I think we are continually growing. We've had a lot for a while, but yes, I think with the Kickstarters and just general buying, we keep getting more.
It can become an addiction, right? Like
Yes.
the number of times I've backed a game. I actually own games that I never opened, right? Like I got Carcassonne on the shelf behind me, and I had to take a picture of it last night. I've had that game now for 2 years. I just took the shrink sleeve off last night. Why? Not because I don't like Carcassonne. I played it, but I usually play the digital version on like an Xbox or something like that, because all the everything, all the scoring is done automatically for you, right? But I wanted to have the physical game. But, as you're collecting and the more games you get, the less time you have to play each and every one of them. How do you organize in some of your videos, it looks like you're going to get injured, right? There's towers of games kind of surrounding you. Do you have any kind of alphabetical system, or how do you organize it?
Lewis organizes them, and I just complain when I can't find where it used to be. Because if I went around and organized, I don't know. He's got better spatial awareness, and he is better with reasoning when it comes to just fitting things into a spot. That's not necessarily one of my skills. I try to play at work on that, so I can actually see things. So Lewis was mentioning, we have a friend who comes over and he says, well, I see you two take the tile and like turn it and turn it and turn it and flip it and turn it, and you try to fit it into your thing, whatever it is, and he can see immediately like what the outcomes are going to be without touching it. That's the difference. So he likes to put things away, and then I just work really hard to find things. But there's no alphabetical order. We do have shelves dedicated to like our Aaliyah games, like all the Chinatown and Castles of Burgundy and Macau and things like that. But we have another shelf that's just Martin Wallace, but then there's a Martin Wallace that goes down underneath Martin Wallace. And he's the only one right now. And we have a Queen game section because they're all the same size. They're all squares. Yeah. But that's about it. I think everything else is just where it fits. So it's all just shapes. So that's why you have to remember shapes and colors. That's how I remember games.
There's a method to the madness.
Yes, a little bit.
So Lewis got you into gaming, 15 years ago when you started, and I've seen him appear in some of the videos, right? So, Kashgar we're talking about just before we went on air, because he got the different characters and he had his fake beard on and so forth. Is he still kind of take a back seat, or are you encouraging him to kind of get on screen more?
So what it started with first, him joining the channel, because this really was just a labor of my love and attention and time and investment. I just went for it. And he's seen me in the last year and a half, because I think I started 2 months before I actually went live, because I needed to have stuff. You have to prepare. So in February was really when I started the channel, but I didn't go live. And he wholly gives it up to me, because he's like, you put in so much that I don't want to do, and I don't, I just good job. And then when I started the commercials, those are the really goofy 1 minute, like you're talking about kashgar. I call them tabletoptolson.coms, mostly because they began as parodies of the dating commercials. I don't know if you're familiar with farmersonly.com.
No. I'm in Canada.
Well, you can watch them online. They are bananas. They're bizarre. And I even made the jingle, which he played bass and just lead guitar, and I did the piano, and we sang it. Like, it's all just
that was you guys singing that. Okay.
That was all of us.
That's awesome.
And so I just roped him into the commercials, and because I needed somebody, and usually there was another me that I found more attractive, which is just ridiculous and goofy. But that started as the Farmers Only, and they've really developed, but that's all original content that the two of us write together, and then we perform, and I like that. I've brought him in for live gameplays. We did a Terraforming Mars together because we both love it so much. We did all the expansions, and our top 50, that was just a really wonderful series to have. And so I think he's just going to come in every now and then for commercials and for top lists. I'm planning right now for our favorite mechanics and our favorite, games that fit those particular mechanics. And so I'm excited to have him for things here and there, but he's very, very happy doing spot jobs.
How long does it take you to create? So and I always love asking this question of content creators because it helps our audience, I think, understand. When you do a video, how long does it take to put that together?
It depends. So if I have a video with a barb from start where I do my this is how you play, and I have, let's say, 3 or 4 characters. Every character I add adds another shot setup and another costume because it's all different. So when I write it, it takes me several hours to write and revise, and then I have to film it, and that usually takes me about 3 hours to film it. And then when I edit, that takes me sometimes days, but not the full day, just it takes me days to get it done. So I usually do a barb every now and then because it is so much time, a lot of work, particularly because of the writing. Same with the Tabletop Tolson commercials. Those are original written content. If I want to do a review or a top 5, usually it takes me about an hour or 2 to take pictures of the games so I can have close-up cutaways. And then to do the actual delivery of content, not as much time. So that's like the least amount of time is me actually talking in front of the camera.
Do you write those ones or do you wing those ones?
I organize them. I know what I'm going to say, and I know what game I'm going to do in what order.
So your touch points kind of mapped out, but then the actual dialogue.
I don't script those.
Got it. But still, again, by the time you edit them,
still a lot.
It's hours upon hours.
It is hours upon hours.
One thing I was really surprised when I first saw your channel, and I went back to that first episode in April of 2020. Most content creators, when you go back to their first episode, it's a lot rougher, and you can kind of see it evolve as it goes along. And I know there's been some evolution in your channel, but the quality of the video has been very good right from the start, and editing and so forth. Is this something you had experience in prior to doing the channel? Just recording and being in front of camera and so forth?
So I had experience in front of the camera. Since we came up to Idaho, I was able to work with a filmmaker in town for several years, and I got to just simply act, which was great. I got to do some practice in front of the camera, and I had a couple small gigs and TV movie bits up in Spokane. I got to be on what is it? Z Nation. I was a zombie in like a real TV show. I know. Anyway, I was on screen for like this much time, and I looked atrocious. I looked like a real zombie. So those experiences helped me feel really comfortable in front of the lens because I went from theater to film, and the first time I was on like a set and the first time I was in front of the camera, you don't transfer naturally from theater to film. It just doesn't work. So I think those years of me working through that helped so much, but the technical aspects, zero. I had to watch so many tutorials, and I had to get so much advice on what to buy, what looks good, how to get just like one good quality this, and how to do things, and just work my way through how to edit. My first edited video was really bad. I redid it.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. It was all out of focus.
Jeez.
It was terrible.
That's a great thing about YouTube, though, right? So as a content creator, you're able to create content to help people in the board game industry, right? Who want to learn about board games. But there's so much content out there for content creators, right? So people looking to create content, there are more than enough resources online for free that will teach you step by step how to do a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
You just have to be willing to go and do the research, right? And you'll find the answers. They're right
So
there.
much time. Yeah, absolutely though. But it was super, super helpful. And from going from the idea that making a YouTube channel was out of my scope of just reach, I just couldn't do it. I didn't think I could, to now, like a year and a half later, feeling just really happy and excited to do it and be here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm amazed. I really am. So it's possible for just about anybody to give it a go.
What's one piece of advice you'd have for content creators out there that are looking to get into this gig? What's one thing that you wish you had known when you first started?
I think something I have to remind myself of regularly, because I'm tough on myself.
Yeah.
I don't appreciate, I don't like being evaluated because I'm worried it's going to be bad, like that's the kind of student in me. As a teacher, I'm always wanting to be like the best student. And so when I'm not, or I fall short, then I kind of like just give myself a tough time. But I think I have to remind myself that every video you make needs to be something that you're proud to put out.
Yeah.
And it's not because of, like, we mentioned earlier, it's not just because everybody else is putting out content for that video. It's not because nobody's paying me to do anything at this point. So whatever I put out is what I want to share. It's what I love. And so if I'm pleased with the content and the message I'm putting out there, then I can't go wrong. Now I can always get better at things.
Yeah.
But I think just be true to yourself.
I think it sounds cliche, but I think it's great advice. When you talk to a lot of the people that have made it big, right, in terms of subscribers and so forth, and every single one will say the same thing, is that too many times they see people trying to emulate other people versus just try to just do their own thing, right, and stay true to your thing. Eventually it'll click. Just make sure the quality's good, and you're putting your love into it. It'll click, right? That is a better path than just trying to emulate somebody else, because at least you're bringing something new for people to consume, right? And I think that's what the industry needs to see. And that's one of the things I love about your channel. There's a lot of stuff on there that is kind of different that you don't see on other people's channels, right? So there's a little bit of something in there for everybody, which I think is a lot of fun. You've invested in a lot of Kickstarters. What's one thing you would maybe recommend to somebody who's putting a campaign out there that that they should consider when they're doing their campaign?
I've seen a lot of suggestions for people starting Kickstarter. I'm gonna forget his name right now, but I get a lot of kind of industry content about how to design board games, which I've dabbled in. I've never actually put something out there, but I've designed a game or two, and Lewis and I have really planned some things together. But it's kind of always just in that nebulous state.
Yeah.
And I think the best thing is probably make it easy and make it fun. Sometimes things get so, convoluted and complex, and there's all these add-ons, and then there's, I don't know, I want something that looks good and that I can, back and believe in, and then hear from you, but not like all the time. I don't know. This is kind of rambling now.
No,
I'm about the Kickstarter campaigns that really work for me. I think it's the ones that kind of hit the middle spot, right?
Yeah, I echo that, because I can think of two exact examples of what you just said there. One, there's a campaign recently I saw where it was a fun looking game, but as I was going through the page, there was so much going on, and I'm like, none of this is net. Like, why does this even have an expansion? Like, there's all these extra, and you invest this, and there's these other expansions. Just give us the core game, and that campaign, I don't think it funded. And I think the problem is sometimes if there's too much going on, people kind of hop back out and they're like, I'm not really sure these people really know what they're even trying to put forward themselves, right? They're just trying to do everything. And then in terms of the advice of not communicating too much, this is another example of, there's a campaign I recently backed. I'm not going to say which one, but there's got to be an email coming like every few days. And I'm just like, please stop, right? And so I don't even read them. And then finally an update went out that said, please read our most recent update, because this one is actually really important. We really need you to act on it. It's like, well, how about you just send us updates when they're important?
Yeah.
Right? Because it's like little boy that cried wolf. Now, like, people see updates coming out, they just ignore them because they assume it's just, here's what we did last week, and here's some other cool thing that's happening that has absolutely zero to do with the game. So that's one of my personal pet peeves. So I'm glad to hear someone else actually echo that.
Yeah.
Where are you going from here? Where does this channel evolve to? Are you looking at doing multiple channels? Are you going to get into other mediums, get into game design? You mentioned a little bit of game design. Kind of where does Tabletop Tolson go from here?
So I have seen a steady increase in support and subscribers, and that's really encouraging to me. I didn't know when I would kind of get these, milestones. Yeah. But it's just so wonderful. So I feel like I've met some people. I don't know them face to face, and I haven't actually spoken with them, but I've had several educators and just the fans of the channel who write me and who are just always writing in the comments. And I find that connection to be really rewarding. And so I see just continuing with this channel. I do want to mostly stay on that platform. I'm not on social media really. I'm on Facebook, but that's the only one. And so I don't do other platforms right now. And so I'm not going to branch out to other forms, but I really do want to cultivate what I have with Tabletop Tolson on YouTube. And I've recently really gotten into the kind of blog feature of it. I find this kind of all inclusive, and I like the opportunities for different kinds of streaming and or recorded content. So I do want to stay there, and I just want to grow and continue to share my educational content with other instructors, to share my silly, goofy sketches and skits with people who appreciate board game comedy. It's not necessarily comedy gold, but it's comedy. And just my level of love and joy for board gaming.
Oh, that's awesome. So if people want to follow this channel, so how do they find your actual YouTube channel?
It's just YouTube, and you do /, you type in Tabletop Tolson, or you just do a YouTube search. You'll find me. I'll pop right up there.
And that's spelled Tolson for Tolson?
Correct.
Right?
Yep.
And then if there's any publishers out there that want to collaborate or reach out to you, is that something that you're open to? If there's a publisher that has something they kind of want to collaborate on or want to get some of your talents on, is that something that you would entertain? Or?
Absolutely. I have an email. It's just tabletoptolson@gmail.com, and any small publisher or large publisher, independent company, or even other educators, please feel free to contact me there. I would love to hear from you, and I will write you back as soon as I can.
Oh, that's awesome. Kimberly, I want to thank you so much for coming on this podcast. It's just been an absolute joy talking to you. I love your channel. Can't wait to see where it goes from here, and continue watching the growth.
Thank you so much for having me.
You take care. Cheers. This has been an episode of the Board Game Binge podcast, hosted by James Staley, produced by James Staley and Mike Bruner, with original music by Nick Smith. If you would like to watch these interviews live, simply join the Facebook group Board Game Binge, and you'll get access to live interviews, giveaways, and interesting board game content from across the industry. I can't wait for you to join us. See you next time.